Hey guys, Ryan here. In today's video, we're going to be talking about what I think is the best Owen Gun build in all of Warzone. I've tried and I've tested a ton of different builds, and I even have the statistical evidence to back up why I think this build is so good. The build I am talking about is currently on the screen in the background, and I'm going to be showing you a time to kill chart here very shortly, showing you how good this thing is, and I promise if you just try it, I think you're going to really like it. So on this time to kill chart, in orange you're going to have the Owen Gun, in purple you're going to have the Type 100, in green you're going to have the MP40, and in blue you're going to have the Bullfrog. Now it needs to be pointed out that this is only time to kill to the chest, and that the time to kill does not really mean that much. The main benefit of this build is it has great mobility, it has pretty low recoil, but it has that insane damage that beats almost every other meta SMG in the entire game right now. I really spent a lot of time trying to figure out the best build that wouldn't compromise mobility, that wouldn't compromise the damage, but it would also keep the recoil to a minimum. The damage on the 60 round Kurtz mag on the Owen Gun, for example, are actually a little better damage wise than the rounds I have. But the only issue is they have a good bit of recoil, and that's where it kind of is a trade-off. If you have the ability to control the recoil of the 60 rounds, use them because the damage is slightly better. But for most people, this build is a perfect combination of mobility, easy to use recoil, and also just sheer damage. As I said before, time to kill isn't everything, but it is super important, and this gun has an insane time to kill, and that's what really makes it stand out. Because the recoil to damage ratio actually feels pretty broken on this build. I'm not saying it has super low recoil. I'm not saying it's zero recoil, quote unquote no recoil. I don't want to act like that. I don't want to sound clickbaity. What I do want to say is that the recoil compared to the damage, if you were to put on a recoil to damage ratio, is actually pretty reasonable, and that's what makes it such a good gun. But not only that, I think one of the best parts is you get to use a silencer on your build, and I think that's really being underrated right now. One of my biggest gripes with a lot of big YouTubers, with a lot of big streamers, is they really promote the use of builds that don't have silencers, that don't have subsonic, and they're telling people to essentially just always have a massive red dot on the minimap whenever they shoot. I don't know when this became popular. I don't think this is good advice, and I don't think it's a good practice in general. This is what I also think makes this Owen Gun so good, is you don't have to sacrifice that ability to be silenced and not appear on the minimap just to get a higher time to kill. The time to kill will be essentially every meta SMG and just sheer damage while also keeping you off the minimap. I do have to point out that this build obviously isn't perfect, and it does come with some drawbacks. The one biggest issue I think people are going to run into is if you are hitting their forearms or their lower legs in particular, you're going to get a pretty high time to kill in reality. If you hit them in the upper arms or the upper legs, the time to kill is going to be perfectly okay. It's going to be extremely competitive, but for some reason, the forearms and the lower legs, oof, the time to kill will go up to 720 milliseconds when it's currently at 480 milliseconds with the current build I have when you pretty much shoot anywhere else. So that's something you have to be aware of, because if you aren't shooting in the right areas, you're going to feel the pain with this build. The second thing is some people are just going to find the recoil and the low rate of fire just an issue for them. And I also think some people just hate the way the Owen Gun blocks the screen. I think one of the best parts about this build is the mag isn't too big and the gun really isn't too big, but when you're on console on 80 field of view, the Owen Gun takes up a lot more of your screen than when you're on PC at 100 plus field of view. But at the end of the day, when you consider the damage, things like the 72 round mag, the overall mobility, and the overall ease of use with this build, it's actually a insanely good option, and I'd really recommend for people to try it. I'm not saying it's going to be the best SMG in the game for most people, but I do think that if you're looking for a new Owen Gun build, you have to give this one a try. Of course, I do have to say, as I said, be cautious about shooting people in the forearms, be cautious about shooting them in the legs and all of that, because you can be punished for that. I'm going to kind of keep this video a little shorter because I'm only talking about one gun, and I just don't think it's necessary to cram a bunch of content into this video. But I do also just want to quickly say, if you do use the 68mm Kurtz round, I think it's a great option. I want to show you a couple clips in the background that kind of shows off the potential of this build. The only issue with these rounds is it makes the rate of fire even slower. It makes your damage better, but it also has the whole limb damage thing even worse. So what that means is if you end up hitting limbs with the 60 Kurtz rounds, you get so punished for it and it sucks. I'm telling you, you will go from literally melting people in just a couple bullets to their chest to feeling like you're shooting marshmallows when you're hitting their limbs, and that is a super unenjoyable feeling for a lot of people. As you can see, the gun just melts when you have the 60 round Kurtz rounds, and I'm using pretty much the same build. The only issue, as I said, is it's super inconsistent feeling time to kill wise because of the whole limb damage thing, and that's something I really unenjoy. The other thing I want to talk about is if you want to use this build as a sniper support, I am going to talk about that in a future video, but if you do want to use it as a sniper support, the main thing you have to do is you should switch up the silencer for the silencer that gives you a little more damage range, and you should maybe also use a slightly different stock. It's going to kind of be up to you and your own personal preference on which stock, but it can be extremely good as a sniper support. And if you're on Rebirth, I would just use that exact build as a sniper support. I was using it as a sniper support today on Rebirth. It was fine. I'm going to talk about it in a Rebirth sniper support build in a little bit here. But anyways, guys, all right, I crammed in maybe a little too much information, but I did just want to talk about alternate builds there. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really appreciate everyone who does. Once again, thank you for watching this video. Have a good day. It's been Ryan. Peace.